So
today,
Witcher
talking about
season
The Witcher.
2, which I think I'm going to unfairly compare to Wheel of Time. No, super fairly compare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, is this going to be a problem?
Yeah. We watched season 2 of The Witcher, and it was good.
Agreed.
Cut. You know, when I watch The Witcher and I see like the behind the scenes stuff with Henry Cavill, I always feel like good for him. Like I feel like one of us made it, like from our village or something.
One of us nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the difference is he's mega jacked, so
there's a lot of differences.
There's a couple ways out of the hood, and that's one of them. I see him, and I think good for us. We have someone representing our nerdly interests.
Yeah.
Who looks like that? You know.
Yeah.
That's good, right? Yeah, I don't know anything about him. Like, do you know anything about him? I know he was Superman.
I don't know if it's like a PR stuff, but there's always like posts of him like on Reddit saying, you know, he built his computer, he likes to play The Witcher.
Well, I know that. I know he knows a lot about The Witcher. He likes it. He read the books.
Yeah.
I know he plays Warhammer, which I also played when I was like 14, but I'm very familiar with, even as a 30-whatever-year-old man, 39-year-old man.
56?
57-year-old man.
You're a young 58.
Yeah. But that's all I know about him. He seems like a cool guy, but I really don't know like what his background is or where he got started or whatever.
Yeah. Well, there's always one thing that happens nowadays with these kinds of shows, it's becoming more prevalent, is things like Wheel of Time, Witcher, whatever. There's a lot more sort of behind the scenes content, especially on Netflix for The Witcher, whatever. They've sort of gone all out. Like there's like a bestiary, there's like 30-minute like behind the scenes for like, season 1, season 2. There's a lot of information out there, which makes the world a little bit bigger, but at least from watching those, the impression that you get is he does everything he can to make things like kind of more faithful to the book.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's like good, a perfect like Reddit darling, right? Like, which I like that. I mean, that's way better than having a guy that
just it wants to collect a paycheck or something.
Reminds me of what's his name, Duncan, Idaho. Jason Momoa.
Yeah,
when he's like, I can't wait for the second movie, and his character dies in the first part. Remember?
Yeah,
that's like the opposite of that.
So, anyways, we watched season 2.
Yeah, we watched season 2. So,
overall positive. Me.
Overall, I liked it a lot. So you want to give a little bit of background?
So Sapkowski was like a traveling merchant, and he wrote these books. Very big hit in Poland. They were adapted into a very popular video game series, which is what kind of started the Netflix, or I think is the reason for the Netflix show.
Yeah, for sure.
There's also been other stuff. There was like a Polish TV series,
the Hexer.
Was that as good?
Well,
better?
I think the story wasn't as good, but the effects were better.
Okay,
as you can clearly see.
Yeah. I mean, early 2000s, I think we kind of peaked special effects wise.
Yeah, and costume wise,
it's been a slow decline since.
Sure. So. Okay, so you have like no background.
Yeah, I played the video game for an hour, then I had stuff to do.
So I remember this very specifically. So I'll say I'm a big fan of the video game series. My college roommate played The Witcher 1 like freshman year, and he was wrong about almost everything else, but he was right about that. That it was good. So I kind of picked it up since then, and then The Witcher 3 was like a huge. All the games were good, I thought, but The Witcher 3 was like a huge hit in general, and so that kind of I think spiked the popularity of the series, and then I'm sure that's what led to it being adapted, or a huge part of it.
Yeah, what's fun being this age now is that most things that are made in the entertainment industry are geared towards basically me,
like us, like our I will remember. I tried to get you to play The Witcher, and you started with The Witcher 2 because 1 is kind of rough if you're not.
Yeah, and I wanted to be a completionist.
And I remembered that you played it wrong, and you were bad at having fun, and so we stopped because you just walked around and like to every corner of every room in like the tutorial, and we're like looking at everything, trying to like find secret things, and I got tired of watching you have fun wrong, so I kind of stopped after. Anyway,
fine.
So
attack on my person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm a big fan of the series from the video games. I haven't read. I bought the first. I think it's the first book. I bought The Last Wish, but I haven't read it. So I haven't read any of the books, so I'm not familiar with that at all. So he continued writing up until like fairly recently, I think. Like one came out like not too long ago. But I think there's like 6 or 7 main books, and then he wrote like 15 short stories or like kind of in between novellas and stuff like that. So there's like a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of it is like not connected in almost like the show. If you're or
especially with
like
season
the first
1
episode, right? It's especially season 1, but they kind of have like one-off little adventures.
Mhm.
That's kind of like short stories, I think, where it's like, hey, Geralt's gonna go do this thing, and then it kind of joins back to like a main overarching plot.
Season 1, what I remember is there were like disjointed stories, but yeah, there wasn't that kind of overarching plot that really kind of drew me in. There was a little bit with Sintra and kind of the battle there, but this season was definitely a lot more cohesive, like narrative.
Did people like the kind of like, remember the season 1, it was unclear that they were in 2 different timelines. You remember that?
Yeah.
It was like one was in the past, but they didn't say it at all until eventually like kind of joined up, and it was kind of confusing for me even, and I kind of knew what was happening, beforehand.
I suppose it didn't really matter to me too much because you were invested in each individual kind of timeline.
I thought it was I was like, nah, a little bit, but it didn't really bother me too much, honestly.
No, I mean, it would have been more confusing if there was more interaction between those timelines, like as it went on, but they kind of operated independently from what I remember. And then when they kind of all culminated, you sort of already had all the information.
And I feel like the characters were likable. People generally like Yennefer and Geralt and Jaskier and Ciri and all that stuff. So that will carry you through like a lot,
Yeah, the characters are interesting. The interactions between them were pretty fun. And I guess by building up that world in season 1, it allowed season 2 to operate a little bit more effortlessly in that.
So I don't know if you got this, but so season 1, the critics didn't really like it too much, but the fans liked it a lot. And then it's the inverse for season 2. So the critics liked it a lot better, but the user scores or like the fan ratings are like lower.
Do you know why? The critic score I can understand. I mean, it's a better sort of narrative.
I think it's the same thing. And
why did the fans like it? That's my question.
Well, because they made kind of large departures from the source material.
Okay.
/ invented some plot point, like major plot points, just completely. So I think a lot of fans didn't like that at all, which is pretty normal for adapting a book, right?
That's
like people
true.
don't like that. So I think the complaint from the fan perspective that I was gathering was that they didn't like that they made it more like, I don't know, like selling out, like
save the cheerleader, save the world.
Yeah. They made it more, I guess, streamlined, and they created their own. There's so much material to draw from, but they kind of just made up their own thing to make it more streamlined as a story. And they thought that maybe they're like pandering to people that don't like The Witcher as much, or pandering to like critics, like addressing their complaints at the cost of sacrificing integrity to the source material. That's the general gist of it that I was gathering.
I see. Look, there's the real world, and sometimes when the rubber meets the road, and you got to make decisions.
But I think the thing that was so disappointing to them, I'm fine. Oh, I didn't read the books, so
you're oblivious.
I'm ignorant of exactly how true it stuck there. I mean, I did a little bit of reading, but I had something and I lost it.
Get it back. Whatever. Let's synopsize, I guess, a little bit what I understand. So,
okay.
Season 1, you follow Geralt of Rivia. He's the Witcher, and basically he's shown kind of going on these adventures, meeting all these people from the world. He meets elves. He meets Jaskier the Bard. He meets Yennefer the witch. He slays some monsters, and it's about him kind of running away from his destiny, which is taking care of this girl Ciri. And then the other part of the story was the Fall of Sintra, which is a city in the north.
No,
in the south.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a city in the south, and you kind of see how Nilfgaard comes, attacks, and eventually the queen, who's a very likable character, ends up dying, and her granddaughter ends up escaping, and eventually finding Geralt, who this was her destiny.
They finally unite at the end,
right? And it was explained as sort of a fate type thing, where Geralt saves the life of Ciri's father, and then he says, I claim the law of surprise, which means the first thing that surprises the first surprise that comes into his life is Geralt. That'll happen season 1. I think it ended in sort of a
It
fun
ended
way.
like right when they met.
Yeah, and it ended with like huge fanfare, and I think it was a big battle.
The Battle of Sodden.
Yeah. So a lot of things happened, and then season 2, you basically take those same characters, and you delve further into kind of the history of the Witchers, Ciri's kind of past and what she means, and then sort of what's going on in the bigger scheme of things with Sintra, Nilfgaard,
Elves.
the Brotherhood, and the Kingdom of
Redania. It's Redania, Temeria, Kedwin. One more, I think. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, whatever. So I'll say about the first episode is when I watched it, I thought it was good, but it was kind of like, because you end on that note, Battle of Sodden, Ciri and Geralt finally meet up, and then you kind of go on this like kind of side plot. You know what I mean? It doesn't have anything to do with anything really. It's self-contained, and it's a little bit of like character development, like Geralt and Ciri, but like I
how
feel
they
like
interact, what Ciri's like.
But it ended with like this huge thing, and you like continue on that thrust, but it kind of just goes in this whole sideways thing with this Beauty and the Beast knockoff guy.
Yeah. What I will say real quick is there's a really good like synopsis of season 1 on Netflix. I was like 15 minutes long, and it really kind of reminded me of everything that happened.
You know what I'll say?
That was done well.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I don't watch those Netflix little short documentaries because I watched one for the Queen's Gambit, and it was like a 8-minute nothing. It was just like, we're making the Queen's Gambit. Yeah, we play chess. Pretty cool. And I was like, this is just, who cares? So I never watched those anymore. But they got better, I guess.
I don't know, man.
The Witcher's
Maybe
one is better.
My standards are just a lot lower. But they talked to like the showrunner and then people, who read the books.
They didn't do any of that.
Oh, okay.
It was literally like, it was almost like an extended trailer. It was like kind of filled with.
It probably was just an extended trailer.
It was like 8 minutes long, like literally.
Well, this is 15 minutes. I mean, they, the synopsis of season 1, and I think they edited it to where, it set you up for season 2. That was good.
Okay.
And then the other behind the scenes stuff. They interviewed the right people, and, it kind of fleshed out why they did certain things.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. It's like DVD extras, but we don't have those anymore. So we have this. So episode 1, again, is sort of a monster of the week type thing where Geralt meets this guy he's met before, but is now a monster because he did horrible things and has been cursed.
Yeah. So I'll say one thing. The Witcher, like the monsters from the Witcher series are like unique, right? I mean, it's kind of like a vampire thing. But
it's probably one of the best parts of the show. And I don't know if it's that I'm not familiar with sort of more like Slavic mythology, or maybe that just hasn't been put on screen very often.
Yeah.
But
probably both.
Yes. Well, everything seems unique, and
that's what I mean. Like the monsters, it's not like a werewolf. I mean, sometimes they have stuff like that, but it's not like a werewolf. It's not a vampire. It's kind of unique things from Slavic mythology, like the Leshy, the forest monster. Like that's a new thing that you haven't seen, right?
Right. And this season, especially more than the last one, everything feels a little bit more different than just like skeletons, that are reanimated.
Yeah. One thing I think is cool is that like a Witcher is almost like a plumber. Like he's like a trade school. Like he has a job and he has like knowledge. He's like, what you got here is a classic Leshy, Like you need to bury this thing at the full moon, It's like he just goes around and solves problems, but he has like expertise about them. There's like very specific reasons why curses happen, how to lift them, and he like knows about all this stuff. It's just funny because he's like a plumber, but
everybody needs a plumber.
Monsters. And the first episode too, it does kind of there's this big thing in The Witcher where it's like, what is a monster, right? Are the people monsters more than the monsters are monsters?
Wow.
He's like, I'm a Witcher. I kill monsters. But what's a monster, right? They think he's a monster. Yeah. He's a weirdo. And it's and it's like the year 1200 in Poland, fantasy Poland. So there's always there's that kind of dilemma going on or conflict going on all the time. And that's like highlighted in the first episode, I would say, because the Brooks is like, Nivellin's in love with it, but it's a monster because it totally kills innocent people. But it also like seems to love him back. Right. He doesn't want to let go. He's a man, but he's cursed, so he looks like a monster. So people treat him like they shun him. Look at all these things going on. It's
complex.
Makes it more interesting, right?
Yeah, and then his curse gets lifted, and then he has to kind of deal with everything.
Yeah.
And then we leave him.
Yeah.
On to episode 2.
Classic Witcher stuff where it ends not super happily.
What are you gonna do?
It's like a lot of I think people like that too, where I think the Witcher things end a lot more like
realistically.
Like you gotta Yeah, you made
Deal with it.
you have to
Or is
you have
it,
to deal with the
yeah,
consequences now.
you made your bed. Now deal with it.
Yeah, and I'll sleep in it. I think
Now sleep in it. You made your bed. Now deal with your bed.
Like,
Yeah.
anyway, but like everything we're gonna talk about after this, has nothing to do with that episode. Like
He's not
nothing.
like the big bad guy of the entire series.
Well, I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay.
so
Okay. Maybe.
my lips are chapped.
Yeah. And then after this is when you kind of start with the main story, which is that Ciri's like a super weapon, and she's gonna kill us all. Then you have Geralt and Ciri going to Kaer Morhen, and it's sort of this what's the word here?
Abandoned.
Uplifting? No, it's,
Oh.
it's like an uplifting, like super jovial, like everybody's here and happy. It's
Oh yeah.
kind of because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
yeah.
it lasts for like all 3 seconds.
It's like a reunion, right?
Yeah.
And it's the first time. Well, not. It's the first time you've ever seen Geralt with another Witcher, right? There was another Witcher in the season 1, but he died like before Geralt got to him.
Right, right.
So it's the first time you've seen him. Well, Kaer Morhen is like where Witchers come from and how they're made and all this stuff. And that's like the closest thing Geralt has to a family at this point.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the Nightmare or whatever it's called of the Wolf. Pretty good. And it took place like 50 years, I think, before this or something.
Oh,
And
okay.
it kind of had Geralt's origins
Oh, okay.
when there used to be a lot more Witchers.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, anyway, so they get there, and then it's kind of like Ciri's like, train me. No.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Geralt says no, but she does it anyways. And you get to see how she kind of grows on all the other Witchers. You know, they first treat her like crap, like, you're just a princess. And
Yeah.
it's very Disney Channel like, and then she kind of like perseveres through, and then it's funny because in like one scene, she's just like falling like by herself and getting like chided, and then like you come back to that scene, and it's like 6-7 Witchers just like cheering her on, like, yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. What did you think about that thing? That like, is it called American Ninja Warrior?
It's called Polish Witcher Warrior.
Yeah. But like,
Right.
anyway,
That's pandering because that's from the video games.
that thing,
Contraption.
I
That's what they told me.
Saw it
That's what
in-
the show told me.
I saw it in the video game. I didn't know
Okay.
it was from there, but yeah, I
Yeah.
saw it there.
Like, I don't think Sapkowski has like detailed drawings in his books about that.
I hope not. So I'll say one thing. I felt like the second season. I felt like the second season, a lot of it was carried by like, I like these characters, so I'm gonna like let a lot of things slide because I don't really care because I like the characters. Like, I get what they're trying to do, right? They're trying
And
to
I
be like,
appreciate that. Like, Ciri is gonna persevere and she's gonna win over these Witchers, and this is who
Right.
she is.
but the way they showed it was kind of like goofy, especially that she got stuck on the first part, which it didn't seem that hard, man. Like, just wait for this swing by, then walk.
well, she didn't-
They made the first part with the swinging things
Yeah, I know.
seem like it was like, whoa, and she couldn't get. It took like 50 times to get through that. I'm like, dude,
she fell a lot, and also like
I could clearly see just go right now, go right now.
Yeah,
So-
I had that same kind of thought.
So that was like kind of like,
And well, there was some line in there like, "This is what Witchers do to like become so good at everything," and
the other parts seemed
Like,
pretty hard, like the
yeah.
spinning thing, but like the first part,
well, sure,
with just like,
yeah, it just seems like
again, I get what they were going for in the story to illustrate, but I'm like, this is a little
right. It's
bit-
just like well, how do I say this? It's like a playground, and it's just like you got. It's like third graders, being like, can you go from that slide and then go into that jungle gym and then go to that without touching the ground? And
yeah,
little kids trying to do that.
Maybe-
what it should have been is more expansive, where it's like, hey, you have to go from here like 6 miles out, and you have to like cross all these crazy things.
Yeah, maybe that.
Scale these mountains,
Or maybe you have to bring back the head of a minotaur or whatever. Or maybe like she's like fighting with like wooden swords with like Lambert or something. He's like, I bet you can't hit me once.
Yeah, like once you do this obstacle course, you'll be a Witcher. Like you'll be a grade C Witcher.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it'll impart upon you all the skills you need if you can just
This is why Witches is
Go.
so good.
yeah. So while they're at Kaer Morhen, a few big things happen. I guess the first one is that Eskel,
Yeah.
who I guess was in Geralt's graduating class, comes back and he's been affected by
Class
the
of
Leshy.
1219.
Yeah, he's been affected by the Leshy, and he kind of succumbs to it and becomes a big tree himself, and ends up having to be put down.
Mm-hmm.
That was good character insight into Geralt
Mm-hmm.
and his
See,
loss.
people didn't like that too because
Oh.
like I think he didn't die in the books.
Okay,
I know he's around for the video games, so I think I don't know, but these things really don't they really don't bother me as long as it's good.
I mean, the way I see it is,
It
if you
fits
like,
in the show.
yeah, if you wanted to see the video game animated, go play the video game. Watch the
Yeah.
cutscenes on YouTube or something.
Yeah, it's not a major thing. I
Yeah.
don't think.
Like narratively, like would it? I mean, is this done better? Like, do you feel more? Is this more what the story is? Like,
Well, maybe that's a discussion for
sure,
a
sure.
separate discussion. But let's just continue with like Ciri, I guess, the Kaer Morhen.
Yeah, so Geralt has to put down Eskel, and then while this is all going on, Ciri, sees all this. She develops a bond with all the other Witchers. She says she wants to be a Witcher herself, and one of the conflicts is, should she go through sort of the chemical aspect of that?
Right. So, well, the thing is like Vesemir. So we haven't talked about Vesemir, but like Grandpa Witcher, basically. So I thought this was a little clunky too. Did you think so? Like him wanting to make more Witchers,
Yeah, sort of. And then Ciri just it turns out Ciri definitely wants the exact same thing.
So it was kind of weird. Like it's like she has magic blood, and he's like,
Yes.
that magic blood might help me make more Witchers. It's like,
Yeah.
really?
Well, it's elder blood. I mean, I don't know. They
I know,
can
but
say
like,
whatever they want.
I guess, but like he knows that the missing ingredient to like his Witcher potion was elder blood. Maybe he doesn't know that.
Well, I don't. Yeah, when he's been around, like he was there when they made Witchers and stuff. He knows
Sure,
what's.
but it's just weird that's the thing that he needs.
I don't know enough.
Whatever. That doesn't really matter. What the part that was kind of weird was that like he wants to make more Witchers. I guess. Like I thought it was kind of like a they don't even like being Witchers kind of thing. Like, do you want to make more Witchers? I don't know.
Oh,
But also he doesn't want to risk Ciri.
mhm.
He's like, no. Well, he's like, I really want to make more Witchers. But the trial of the grasses or whatever, like when you make Witchers, the death rate is like 70% or something,
Right.
And he knows this. So he's like, I want to make more Witchers, aka I want to risk the lives of a lot more children.
Yeah.
But I can't risk this child. He's like, absolutely not. No way.
Well, there's a few things. One, I think he thinks it's like a necessary evil to like have more Witchers. Two, I think they're usually always guys, right? So he doesn't know exactly what the effects would be on Ciri.
Yeah.
And three, he knows Ciri like more than he would know those other kids. Yeah, it's kind of messed up.
But he's just like so gung ho about it.
Mhm.
But he's like, no, you can't be.
Yeah, and then conveniently,
The
Ciri's
first one.
like, I'll let you do it, but only if you let me do it.
Yeah, it seemed like a little forced conflict, right? I mean, she's like so adamant that she has to be.
The first Witcher
It's
that
like,
he
why?
attempts, yeah. And also, isn't it kind of funny? Like, it's her blood being put back into her, just in this concoction. Like, couldn't she get like the rest of the things and it would just work?
Didn't think about that one.
I don't know. That was funny. And so eventually, this is
by the way, sidebar, that medieval centrifuge, that was cool, right?
Yeah, I was going to talk about two things. Yeah, so the centrifuge is cool, and then when Vesemir is about to inject Ciri, he doesn't. But when he's about to, he uses like a metal IV, like a metal syringe needle.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The world's oldest.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
That he has that in his Witcher lab, like. Has like a metal intubate, like a metal ventilator, like an iron lung or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like you're saying, they're like plumbers who go around solving issues or problems. It's just sort of funny that you associate them as being these sort of like fighters, and they're going out and like killing all these things. But then they like come home, like put on their spectacles, and they're like just mixing chemicals and stuff.
That's kind of part of it too. Like a big part of the game is the potions and like, the harvesting alchemical elements and stuff like that. I don't know, but I always thought that they had more of like a workman's knowledge, like an electrician versus like an electrical engineer.
Yeah, I mean their origin is like the mages made them to like fight, right? Like they're not mages; they're like
and
blue
like they know
collar mages.
They know like little magic signs, but like nowhere near like actual magic. So that happens, and then it gets interrupted because the fire guy comes, right?
Oh yeah.
I actually don't remember. I think the fire guy comes and like steals the elder blood and stuff like that, so it doesn't actually happen.
So Geralt and Ciri go into the forest because he's following kind of Ciri's, something's calling me, and then he goes in the forest to see what that is, and they see the Leshy, which looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Geralt fights it for a second, and then this big centipede comes and rips our first bad guy in half, which is that was very
I didn't see that coming.
That was unexpected. That was awesome. It chases Ciri. You're not really sure what the point is. Geralt kills it, fine. And then in order to like figure out more stuff, he goes to Sintra, leaves Ciri alone.
Yes.
And that's kind of where all this other stuff happens.
Do you want to talk about like Ciri and Triss? There's like a whole thing there.
Yeah. And then, well, like while Ciri's at Kaer Morhen, she interacts with
Triss.
Yeah, she interacts with Vesemir, with Triss, with Lambert and
Eskel.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, and that's character building for her. Triss
it seems like so Triss gets there, and it seems like Triss is going to be like the mother figure to Ciri, and maybe like Geralt's going to be like the father figure. And then Triss even hits on Geralt.
Rejected.
Yeah. But they kind of like undo that because they go into the dream and she sees like kind of like a nebulous fantasy to me. And then Triss wakes up. It's like, oh my God, you're free.
Yeah. It was like it was so
abrupt.
Silly. It's this person, like Triss has been alive for 100 years,
a
little while, right? And probably has like some empathy, feels something, and she likes Ciri, and she's like,
she wakes up, she's like, kill it with fire.
Yeah, you don't wake up and just like, oh my goodness, this person, this little girl, you know, she's going through all this stuff. What can I do to make her as like scared and hate me as much as possible? It's like, kill you, you need to die. Like, it was just so silly. And then
maybe what they were going for
is she's so dangerous.
Yeah, she's so dangerous that whatever, right? But I have another theory. Okay, so you probably don't know this, but in the game, your like romance options for Geralt. It's not just Yennefer's not in the first two games. At all. I mean, she's talked about, but she's not in the games at all. Triss is though. She's in the first and second game, and like, you know, it's an RPG. You have choices and blah blah blah. But Triss is a very popular romantic option for all three games. So she's very popular with like video game nerds, such as yourself. I mean, such as myself.
Yeah.
You haven't played this game, but so. And then the reason for this, because in the books, I don't think she's at all. She's just like Geralt's friend. And she does hang out at Kaer Morhen and stuff like that. But I think she's just Geralt's friend. Like there's no romantic stuff. I don't think. But when they made the first game, they were actually planning on making it just a generic Witcher. Like it's called The Witcher, and it's not going to be about Geralt. It's just about a Witcher. So, and I don't know when the switch happened, but eventually it is where it's Geralt, right? But they had written part of the game and put characters in there, not thinking it was going to be Geralt. And then I don't know if they got the rights or they decided or whatever, but then they made it Geralt later. So there's no Yennefer in the first game. There's Triss, because I think they wanted Triss to be like the romantic option for this other random Witcher. But then they changed it to Geralt, but then Geralt's with Yennefer. So they're like,
they have this weird love triangle.
So what they did was they said Geralt had amnesia. So he didn't remember Yennefer at all or any of the stuff. So he was free to, without judgment, hook up with whoever because he forgot.
Okay.
That's
clunky. Yeah.
Yeah, it's clunky. And so eventually, as it got more popular, and like, you can't leave Yennefer out because she's a huge part of the book, especially when they're putting Ciri in the third game. So they brought her in and they kind of like tried to like, they kept the amnesia stuff. They kept it all. They're like,
they created like a wedge between her and
Geralt. It did. And it's so funny because this is part of the third game where he's like, yeah, and I lost my memory. And she's like, yeah, sure you did. Whatever. But anyway, so my theory is, because this is all to say, Triss is a very popular character, and a lot of people want Triss and Geralt to be together, probably. So I think they did this whole thing as like a nod to that, or like showing that, and then showing that we're not going that way.
Got it. I mean?
Okay. Like she hits on him, doesn't work. She tries to be like Ciri's mother figure, which Yennefer is. That doesn't work either. So I think they're trying to like get that off the table. That's what I felt like. I may be way off.
I mean,
but that's what I think.
From the way the show's gone, I don't see any way that they do get together anymore. So I think,
right? Because
like how would they?
I think they wanted to like
that's closed for me.
Put that all away. So,
unless he gets amnesia in the third season.
Unless he gets amnesia, boy. So that's what I think that was all about.
Interesting. So then Ciri thinks she's a freak and is super duper scared, and she goes to the Temple of what? Melitele, yeah. Melitele.
Well, Geralt's like, you need to get an education.
Yeah.
And he takes her to this temple where he also got an education, I guess.
Well, it seems like a nice place. Nice people.
Yeah.
Candles.
As we're going through this, I'm kind of realizing how disjointed the season might have been. I don't know. Because it's hard to keep track of like everything.
Yeah, but like I know it happened, but yeah. One thing that kind of made this season bigger in scope than the first season was, you know, Ciri's whole story, like what is she, blah, blah, blah. And so then they talk about the elder blood where there's flowers everywhere she bleeds, which that was a cool little reveal.
That's pretty cool.
But the specifics of like why it really matters,
Do
I
you-
kind of get,
Do
but
you understand what it is or what it means? It's a little confusing because it's like kind of like elf,
yeah, I thought that just meant that she's like an
part
elf, but
but the
is
elves
this
don't
more?
have elder blood. You know
Yeah,
what I
so
mean?
that's what I was confused about.
Right. So it's not really explained. And I thought, again, it was also kind of clumsy where Istred, he just goes to like this magic bookshop and he's like,
Oh, yeah.
I need to know very specific ancient knowledge. And they're like, we know a lot of stuff. Here you go.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind
we
of,
got your knowledge.
was that, nah, did that work for you?
The interactions between the bookkeepers.
No, I mean, just the fact that it was just like,
No,
hey,
I know,
I
I
need
know.
to know this. And he's like, I know just the book.
No, that seemed silly, but the way that
Right.
it was presented like distracted me enough to where I was like, fine.
Yeah, it was a little one of those like, well, look at this, like
Yeah.
exposition.
Mhm.
So that was a little off. But the way I understand it is that like the elves, when they were fighting people a long time ago, when people first came,
Been there.
they made like tried to engineer or make like a super warrior or something with this gene or this thing, and then Ciri's like descendant from that person.
Yeah, it's like 10 generations down.
What exactly
Yada,
that
yada.
means? I mean, obviously she has like strong magic, but like what specifically means, I don't know / can't say.
Yeah, and then that really raised the stakes because you're like, oh, wow, this means a lot more for this world, apparently.
So that's kind of like vaguely explained with he goes to Half Price Books and there's whatever, right?
Yeah. Which, yeah, the stakes were raised because you realize that there's a lot more parties involved. It's the entire world is kind of after
Sure,
Ciri for
yeah.
different reasons.
Yeah, that's coming to a head too. Like everybody wants her for some reason. Redania wants her, Nilfgaard wants her, the Aretuza,
Yeah,
Wants her.
the Wild Hunt want her.
the Wild Hunt, whatever that is,
Right.
wants her. Okay.
And then the tensions raised because you like this character, you spend a lot of time with her and Geralt. And yeah, I think it was well done because you care about the characters first and then they raise the stakes later. One thing that I think was a little bit confusing was the conjunction of the sphere stuff, which I suppose just means like there were different worlds, they came together, and like elves, humans, yada yada, didn't used to coexist, but now they
Yeah.
do. And then the monoliths are kind of a gateway then to those separate worlds.
Yeah, apparently. I don't know how much of this, basically like there's different dimensions. And at one point they like collided and then that brought humans and monsters, from the elves' perspective, probably just monsters,
Yeah.
to like that where they are now.
Yeah.
It's like they kind of collided and then they went apart again. And it brought everything in that one time, but not anymore. But
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that last part. Okay.
yeah, it was like a long time ago. They collided, all this stuff happened, and that was like many, many, many years ago.
Yeah. You
But
know,
now it's like, oh, the portal's open.
man, this is I realize now like how big of a trope that is because that's in the like Way of Kings, Sanderson's books. That's in,
Is?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
right. It's in. I think this season accomplished very well. Like what it accomplished really well is saying Ciri's important. This is why everybody's after her. Be scared.
Sure.
That
yeah.
was done pretty well. And then, the other characters from the beginning or from season 1, you have Yennefer, Jaskier, who both make a comeback.
Yeah, Yennefer, so her thing, I think people didn't like that too much either. It was a little bit like she lost her magic,
Sure.
and then she goes to the magic witch hut. So what did you think about the magic witch? The deathless crone, or the deathless mother. There you go.
Well, I was kind of
So that is created entirely out of nothing. And that's a major plot point, obviously. That's like the whole.
I mean, I think it fits in with the world that they've created so far.
Mhm.
Initially, I was not really excited about it because I was like, oh, whatever. They have some generic, villain just to like, make this happen with Yennefer's magic. But by the end of it, the way that they connected it back to the main story, I was okay with it.
So you were fine with that whole thing?
Okay, the hut with the legs
Yeah,
looked hilarious, and I loved it.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
That's a Baba Yaga from I know Russian, but maybe Slavic mythology.
Yeah.
It was a witch who has it's chicken feet, actually.
Oh,
The
okay.
hut has chicken feet. I think they changed it to like reptile feet
Mm,
in the show, but it's supposed to be chicken feet.
got it. Yeah, so looked cool. Played a pretty big point in the plots. Like it changed what Fringilla, Francesca, and
So-
Yennefer all did.
Why do you think they added that plot thread completely? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if Yennefer loses her magic in the
I
books
think
or in
she
the game.
does. I think she
Okay.
does. In the books, I think she does.
And then
I
this
could be wrong, but
gives her a way to get back with Ciri and Geralt and adds conflict to that. emotional, like inner conflict as well as sort of
So what
external.
it does, it drives. So there's like three things. There's the elves with the
Mhm.
baby. There's Fringilla with, I guess, Emir, but that's really kind of the same thing. And then there's Yennefer getting her magic back. And the Deathless Mother thing, like kind of, it drives those
All
three
three.
things, right? I'm wondering, I guess I don't have enough knowledge of the books, but I'm wondering why they felt like they had to engineer that. Because presumably in the books, there's something gets you from point A to point B that they could have done instead. I don't know why they decided to create this, but I think people thought it was like kind of a little
Force.
goofy. Like,
Mm.
there's like a magic witch that, like
Whatever.
but like her the bowl, her powers and stuff are kind of like ill-defined.
So her powers, that's the thing that I really had the issue with is I don't understand like what the in-world explanation is for Yennefer getting it back and why it was kind of lost in between. I don't understand, I guess.
Well, she got, I think
She
they,
used fire magic.
yeah. So I don't know if they said this explicitly, but with fire magic, you have to give up something.
So they said that, sure. So fine.
She used fire magic, so she kind of like burned herself out, basically.
Right, but then why did she get it back?
Because the magic witch,
She gave it back to her? Or
didn't she?
I don't
That was
think
the whole point.
I don't think she did though, because like she brought Ciri like to the footsteps of like Sintra, but
Yeah.
she didn't actually take her there. Like she didn't actually go through like, and go
How did
into
she
the
get possessed?
magic witch's hands. Oh, that's because by the time Geralt and Yennefer went to the forest,
Yeah.
then the magic witch had already like achieved all of her suffering and was released.
You see what I mean? Like that it's kind of like ill-defined.
Yeah, so that part I didn't like because
Anything could have happened. You'd be like, oh, okay, because you don't
Yes.
understand how this witch works.
yeah, the parameters of like her powers weren't defined, and then how Yennefer lost and got her powers back wasn't defined. Those are my two issues.
Well, the powers, I thought, like they see in season 1, they're using fire magic, and they literally have to like kill mages to send those fireballs. You know what I mean? They shrivel up into whatever.
Man, that was cool.
That was metal as hell, as they say. But
Uh-huh.
I thought that her using super fire magic to kill
Yeah.
everybody was like kind of like a cost has to be paid, and the cost was like she lost all
Yeah,
connection.
so, but I don't get how she got it back.
Exactly, but that's part of that. I think that's what people don't like is
Sure.
that this whole Deathless Mother thing. They could have made anything happen because it's not. It's weird. It's fantasy, but it's not like grounded in any sort of
you have
in-world
the internal
rules.
consistency of the universe.
It was like, oh, like it was kind of unclear what is she trying to do or how is she trying to do it.
Like the way I kind of in my head canon was like, okay, maybe Yennefer can get her powers back, but the Death Mother can like stop her, like she's preventing her from using them. That's maybe.
It felt like it was like a video game, and like her suffering bar meter like achieved like limit break status, and she was like, "Now I'm free."
Yeah,
It seems kind of, you know what I mean?
that's how it was.
It kind of came out of nowhere, and then she like takes over Ciri's like mind and stuff, and it's
that felt a little bit contrived. Like we need to have a big fight at the end. How do we make it happen? And also apparently they added like more Witchers than there probably should have been.
oh,
So
I mean,
this
in
is
the game there's like 3.
Yeah, so Ciri's possession was a way for them just like
Get rid of them.
very coldly just like slice, just kill all
See,
the
this is what I mean when
unnamed
where
Witchers.
people are like complaining that like they're just kind of pandering. They're like, oh, we need a big action scene at the end. We need like 10 Witchers battling 10 monsters, and they all need to die. It's not from the books.
Mm-hmm.
I think book fans are like, hey, that's like they're making it kind of cheapening it, or like
I think for every fight in the season, there was a lot of like emotional weight,
Mhm.
or you knew what the stakes were. But at the end fight, that was still kind of true. If you just have kind of Vesemir and Geralt in there, Vesemir's like, trying to kill Ciri, and then Geralt's protecting her. There was emotional moments there, was character building, whatever,
Mhm.
right? Like the story was progressing, you learned stuff. But the stuff going on in the background was just fodder. Like the way she like summoned those 3
basilisks.
like basilisks. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just like, whatever. Like they're gonna die eventually. They're gonna kill some people, but there was no real point to their existence.
It was kind of
You could put anything in there, and it would
gratuitous.
have been fine.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about the ending. Talk about Yennefer more. So I think people didn't like that. Her stuff was kind of like a little bit all over the place, and some of it didn't make sense to me. So
Okay.
let's see what you thought. She goes back to Aretuza
Mhm.
after the elf witch stuff.
Yeah,
After the elf witch stuff, she goes back to Aretuza. The first part of the episode, I was kind of like, "This is what's going on?" Like it reminded me of like a college freshman goes back to hang out at high school.
oh
And
yeah,
like the kids, like, you guys know what it's like out there. And she's like getting high with the other students, like like in the dorm room or whatever.
Yeah, in like the pool. In this case.
Yeah. Like, you don't know what's up, man. They're not looking out for you, blah, blah, blah. But it felt kind of like, where's this going? Like, and the other big thing that I was like, what? Is she has to kill Cahir, right? Okay, they're like, well, I know you killed the entire army, but you were gone for a while. You might be a spy, so prove your loyalty by killing this guy. How does that prove her loyalty? Like, she killed tons of people. Like, why would she even care? And then how is that going to prove anything? If she literally melted their whole army, she's going to kill a guy to keep her cover if that's what she's trying to do.
Yeah, especially with how, like, I guess cutthroat she's shown in this season for like wanting to get her magic back and everything.
Yeah. Like, it was, again, what they were trying to go for is that, like, they don't trust her. She's going to have to make this decision of, like, do I do something really bad or do I do the right thing?
Right.
But sacrifice my own self. That's what they're trying to convey. But the way they did it, I was like, she doesn't even know this guy. She doesn't care. She doesn't even like this guy.
Yeah, he's like a commander or whatever.
She kills people
like
a lot. Like, who cares? And then also, like, how is it going to prove that she's loyal exactly? It's not like her friend.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I mean, I think the character was confused about where she belonged in this world, so that was there. And then Cahir had to like leave Aretuza, so they accomplished that. I know that's what they accomplished, and that's what they're trying to convey. That kind of choice. And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna like." But the motivations, you're right. If you look on paper, it's like, well, she could have just killed him and then kept up her cover. Yeah. And then also, why would they think that killing this guy is gonna like prove anything to them? Like, you must not be a spy because you killed a guy you don't even know. So I don't know. So that part I thought was kind of like clumsy again. Cahir, like his, I liked his actor, and I liked kind of how he changed. Because when I first saw him, I was like, wait, who is this again? And in season 2. Yeah. And then he has the beard. He goes to Sintra, and then he shaves. I'm like, oh right, this guy. Like I was stupid. Yeah. And his he's a little bit conflicted, and he's not as ruthless as maybe he wanted to be towards the end there. Yeah. Well, like they're kind of on the run, so they kind of develop a bond like when they're on the run together for like a second. Yeah, but I feel like I meant some sort of mutual respect or something like that. Yeah. And then they meet Jaskier. So we haven't seen Jaskier for like a while. You have issues with his reveal or something? No. Well, okay. So before the way that they meet Jaskier is he's called the Sandpiper. He's the Harriet Tubman of this universe. Apparently, ferrying elves to Sintra. Yeah. The person who leads them there is there were 2 elves in like the sewer system. Yeah. And I don't remember his name, but one of them, who I think was deaf, was like hitting on Yennefer, and she talked to him and stuff. There were so many like death flags as it went on, where it was like a comedy. There's like this shot of him just saying like, one day I'm going to raise hens, and I can't wait to, retire, and I'm going to have my own plot of land and marry a nice girl and settle down. Yeah. I got this pension coming in. Yeah. And then just immediately like taken underwater and drowned. It was like almost to a comical level. I think. Right. Yeah. I don't know if that was the intention, but that's what you got. I was like, oh, he's going to die for sure. I didn't think it was going to happen right then. Immediately. Yeah. You're like, hey, I'm a good guy. I'm down on my luck, but I'm working hard. I'm going to make it. And then, so that was like, really? That was poor. And it was just to show that the old elf was like kind of a jerk. Coward. And then they meet Jaskier. I don't like the reveal. This is a nitpick of mine, I guess. But the way it's done is they say something like yada yada yada. The guy's like a singer or something. And then in the back of your head, they're like, well, could this be Jaskier? And then instead of me learning that it's Jaskier by having him turn around and face me, the way I learn about it is by Yennefer smiling. Like she smiles knowingly. And then I was like, well, like she got to feel that emotion. They robbed that from you. I wanted to feel that emotion. Yeah. So then Yennefer meets Jaskier. That's a little interesting. Hey, how's it going? It's been a while, right? The amount of time is weird because they don't age and they're all really old. Well, so Jaskier ages. Yeah, sure. But so yeah, they meet her. I thought that leads to one of the funnest moments, I think, of the season, where Jaskier is being interrogated by a fire guy. Yeah. And then Yennefer comes in like all drunk and pretending with like the alcohol. And I was like, oh, she's going to like slam it on him like when he uses the fire or something. So I kind of called what would happen, but the way that it was done with her like blowing the oil in his face, that was really satisfying. I didn't see that coming. Yeah. That was cool. It was nice. It was cool. It was tight. It was tight. And then Jaskier and Yen escape, and then Yen gets apparated to the hut.
Yeah. And then she like steals Ciri.
Yeah, she's given the mission of stealing Ciri.
So about Jaskier, like real quick. So Jaskier's like really likable. He's a funny guy. He's like
He's just a normal guy.
He's a normal guy, but he's like kind of full of himself and arrogant, but also whatever. Everyone likes Jaskier, I assume. I don't know if in the books he's not in this because they kind of like come in and out and stuff like that. I feel like this whole Sandpiper thing and stuff, I don't know if that's from the books or not, but it feels like it's kind of like shoving him in there to get him in there.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, you have like all of them coming together. And I don't know if that really happens in the book or not, but I guess it feels like he suffers a little bit from he needs something to do and he doesn't have anything to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they want him to be in there because everyone likes him. And I want him to be there, but he doesn't have, like, they need to give him something, make up something for him to do. So he's like helping elves escape. And then at the very end, he's like,
you got to give him this stone.
Rock.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Geralt, rock. Like,
yeah.
It felt like a little clumsy again, like where he's like.
And honestly, it wasn't even like, give him this rock. It was like, just mention this rock.
Let him know that rocks exist.
Yeah. Like, read this poem to him.
Geralt.
Read this fortune cookie to him, basically.
You should try to stop the monster. He's like, Jaskier.
Yeah. I am Batman.
Jaskier. I don't know. Did you get that feeling from him too? Or?
Definitely, yeah. He's just in there to be in there.
I like him to be there, but he doesn't have like a.
No. He doesn't do anything for the plot. Or he doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you have the elves who. This is kind of funny because I remember in the first season you see Philavandrel, but he's just like some dude in a cave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now they're like, there's like an army and there's hundreds of elves and they're like the leadership of a race.
I don't know if they got more money, but that was supposed to be the case back then. He's king of the elves or whatever. And there was like
he's just some like mountain
I
dude.
Think, like plural elves was him and one other lady. Like
that's what it looked like. So I saw that and I was confused as to who it was at first. But the plight of the elves is lamentable.
So
they got a real children of elves situation going on.
Is anyone gonna get that?
I'll make sure they get it.
All right.
Yeah, don't worry.
Right. Well, okay. So the friendship with like Francesca and Fringilla.
It seems forced and tenuous.
And it seemed kind of like it got to the point where like she's delivering her baby, and I was like, what? Like, do you remember that? I was like, she is delivering this elf baby? Like she's a sorceress, right?
Yeah, it was like they come from like two opposite sides, and then they're bonded together because of the
witch magic.
Yeah, so they're bonded together based on that, and like you just know that it's gonna fall apart. And so one recurring theme, anytime I saw the elves for like the last 4 episodes, was just like dread. I was like, that baby's not gonna make it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There is no way that with this build up, that baby doesn't make it. And in the back of your mind, you know that Amir, the White Flame, is coming. So
yeah,
or something's gonna happen.
Yeah, but was it good tension?
It was tension. What happened eventually, the only unexpected thing that happened was that Fringilla went to her uncle and Aretuza was thinking about kind of like leaving whatever and goes back and decides, you know what? I'm better than this, and just murdered all the generals of Amir's army in a pretty cool scene.
Like her story was more of like a career advancement kind of story, I guess. Like
she went, saw what the counteroffer was and said, nope, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, the weird thing is before, like in the first season, like Kahir and her, I didn't really feel like they had any like tension or like they were grading on each other. It was kind of like they worked together and it was clear who was in charge. I could buy this. I mean, Kahir is gone for a while. Fringilla finds herself in like a situation where she's operating independently, and then Kahir's like, what are you doing? But aren't there very clear like chains of command in this situation? Like,
I think Fringilla like hasn't kept up with that as much as she could.
All right. My thing with the elves, did you get this like where it just seemed kind of dumb where like, okay, they need help, so they agree to go live in Sintra, the elf, originally elvish, and help Nilfgaard fight the Northern Kingdoms, right? And they say, yeah, we'll do all that. And then she's pregnant and she's going to have a baby. And she knows that too.
Yeah.
And then when she has the baby, she's like, nah, we're not gonna do any of that stuff.
They were so naive. Yeah, I was
but it was
pretty
like
angry.
too naive. It's like, what did you think was gonna happen?
Yeah, I was so angry with their like.
You're living in their fortress.
You've been alive for hundreds of years. You cared this much about like you know what's happened in the past. You know how you ended up in this situation.
Did they think they were just gonna be like, nah, we're good?
And I think Phil Evandro says something like, now we just want peace and we just want a place where we can, regrow our population and become super strong and wipe you humans out in a couple hundred years. Like he says exactly what I think Dijkstra or somebody said they were going to do.
Yeah.
And they were just, so naive.
But it's not like, so I would have bought it more if she got pregnant and then said that. But she already knew she was going to have a baby.
Right.
So why would it change what she was going to do? She knew that she was going to have a baby.
Yeah. I mean, if I was her, I would have said like, hey, honestly, when you're pregnant, I would have been like, hey, I'm pregnant. We're not in the most secure of places. Let's go to some like crazy hideout and make sure this works out.
Isn't teaming up with Nilfgaard still a good idea for them?
I mean, it would be, but...
Well, it's certainly not a good idea to like go to a mob boss, make a deal with him, live in his house, and then back out on the deal.
Yeah.
That's a bad idea, right? Like, that's what they did essentially.
So stupid. But yeah, I think even if you didn't do that, like, how could you be that trusting? Like,
I know.
Like how... Like, it's one baby. Like,
yeah.
You want to guard one baby for like 10, 20 years in this fortress with humans? Like,
yeah.
I would not want to do that.
Then the other thing, I guess, again, to go with this theme where like I know what they're trying to show, but it comes off clumsy, is like there's tension between the elves and Nilfgaard.
Sure.
Like the Nilfgaard general is like, these elves, they suck for some reason. Blah, blah, blah. We hate them. But I don't know why, It's like they made this deal. They want them to help them.
I don't know. Well, Fringilla made this deal, right?
But
and
it's kind of like your elves are supposed to be training, but they're off drinking and partying because you had a baby.
Yeah, comically evil. And then you don't really feel bad when Fringilla kills them all.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. It's like I know what they're trying to go for.
Yeah, but the characters, if you were actually in that situation, they probably wouldn't act exactly like that.
Right?
The end result might be similar, but the motivations are like pure evil,
Like aren't they a military, like kind of professional? Don't they do what their boss says? They wanted they made this deal with Nilfgaard. I mean the elves, like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, the tension there, it was kind of obvious what was gonna happen.
Maybe forced or kind of like
you just know something bad's gonna happen. Like the second you see them like in Sintra, you're like, how is this gonna end happily? Is this gonna end with them like getting their freedom and like, riding off into the sunset? No, almost definitely not.
But that happens a lot in lots of shows where you know that it's not gonna work out, but it's conveyed in a more satisfying manner, I guess, because like maybe something will happen. You're saying like unexpected but inevitable, yeah, right?
But this one, it was not unexpected at all.
This is not unexpected at all, right?
Yeah, it
should be something. It would be more satisfying if, like, for example, the elves discovered something that changed the game in some way. The pregnancy doesn't count because they knew that already. Mm-hmm. They changed the game in some way, and they're like, "Oh, we can't go against the Northern Kingdoms."
Yeah.
Now,
or maybe if they like attempted, like they can't just like. I don't know exactly what the army sizes were, but you can't just like stay in Sintra and say, hey, we're not going to do this. Like to their army that's right in front of you. Maybe they should have tried to be like, hey, we decided we're not going to fight. Let's try to slowly sneak out of Sintra.
Yeah, something like that.
Like in the middle of the night, like we're going to do a training exercise.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it's kind of unclear. Like, are the elves weak or are they strong? Seems like they're pretty weak, right? I mean, they can't take their land back.
Their numbers aren't there. Like,
so, like, how do they think they're gonna just live in this like squat and not pay rent in this fortress?
Yeah,
with soldiers everywhere,
Right.
And the emir's coming. So I don't know. So that seemed kind of goofy. And the part where she murders all the kids was cool, though.
Right.
I mean, that was pretty like.
Oh, that was a youngling murder.
It had consequences. I guess, Do you want to talk about Dijkstra real quick?
Yeah, so Dijkstra, by the way, sends a spy, Dara, to Sintra, who is like comically in all of the right places at the right times to get like as much information as possible.
Yeah,
about the scenario.
Again, a little clumsy, right? Like,
yeah. Noticeable, like because you'll be like watching a scene and it's like super dramatic or whatever, and the camera will like be like a little out of focus, and it's like there's Dara in the back. It's like.
It's like writing stuff down.
Yeah, it's just always there.
Yeah.
And then he's also like super naive. Like, I've decided I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And there's no consequences for that.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be like murdered by that owl
So
as soon as he said it.
Yeah, that owl. So Dijkstra,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that old man like got super jacked for this role? Or he was already jacked or what?
I don't even know if he's that old.
61. Oh, he was in The Hobbit?
Is he the barkeep?
He was Dwalin, one of the elves? Yeah.
Cool.
Dude is rocked up more than I'll ever be. And he's like 61.
Nice.
Anyway.
Yeah, he's menacing. I don't really get who he's doing any of this for, but
I think he'll probably have more of a thing in the third season because like the whole stuff with Redania and the elves and the king who doesn't really know what's going on
Mhm.
and doesn't seem to care, but the elves killed all the firstborn children.
where is that though? They killed all the
I think
firstborn
it's
children.
Redania.
Oh, it's Redania?
I think it is, yeah.
Oh.
Because remember, the whole point was like Emir kills the baby, so they think Redania killed the baby.
Oh, that's
so
right.
they fight all the Northern Kingdoms that he wanted.
That was also clunky because that baby dies. Should have been protected by like every elf all the
I don't
time,
even know
always.
how it died. Someone just stabbed a baby.
I believe so.
Okay.
And then what I thought was really stupid was Kahir tells Fringilla, like, you kill this baby. Pretend you did it. Because this way you'll look like super smart and I'll back you up. I was thinking like, this is a pretty big thing that's happened. Like, like it must have crossed their mind like, hey, somebody murdered this elf baby.
They think Redania did it. Probably.
I don't think they did. I mean,
it wasn't. They never said that, or they never really.
Right, but it's like it's like this major thing happened. There's somebody out there who did this, who had the power and the will to do it. By you lying, like,
But I think
the truth might come out. Like,
they
what do you
didn't
think?
think that Emir did it. That's the thing.
Yeah, I suppose. But one of his
you know
like
what
generals,
it's like when your boss is breathing down your neck.
one of his generals might have done it. Someone else might have done it.
Yeah, sure.
It was not like Emir did it himself. So
Mm.
yeah, whatever.
Well, what else are they gonna say? Let this be. Let this. Yeah.
That's
I don't
true.
know. I
That's
don't know.
true. But yeah, that happened, and then Fringilla and Kahir like both get like arrested, I guess, at the end. And then there's like an Emir reveal.
So,
but
what did you think about that? That it's her dad.
what
You were surprised, I'm assuming.
sort of
It wasn't really hinted at.
Sort of. Well, they do like reintroduce you to Cyrilla's dad throughout the season a couple
little
times
bit,
by showing him. So when he is on screen, you're like, oh, I know who that is.
Right.
I think the actor, the actor didn't have the presence
He wasn't
to make it as
he wasn't menacing, right?
Yeah, to make it as a menacing or as a
I think maybe the problem was that they had to have him as a young man for the flashbacks, but it's been a long time. But you also have to recognize that it's him, kind of, you know,
yeah,
like he can't look completely different.
that's true.
But he has to look like a young, nice father because the reveal is like, oh, Ciri's dad was like a cool guy, but now he's this awful evil guy.
Yeah.
So the actor has to look like a cool guy and an evil guy at the same time.
Yeah, they could have done more, I guess.
But yeah, he didn't look menacing at all, right? Like
Yeah,
he,
so he just
he doesn't look menacing or powerful or like whatever, like as it's described. Whatever, you see him for like 5 seconds.
his actions will speak for themselves.
Yeah.
I'm sure
And
next
he murdered
season.
a baby, so like
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Forgot about that.
so that I already knew that because it's in the game.
Yeah, and I guess you'll see the setup for next season where Ciri has to decide who's my real father. Is it Geralt or this guy? What do I want to do?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
You sound like you're dissatisfied with this.
No, it's just predictable.
Well, what isn't predictable?
That
On a
rock
grand
monster
scale.
that Ciri like yelled into existence.
What?
The
Chernobog?
yeah,
Is that what it was?
I love that thing.
Okay.
Apparently, it was from the behind the scenes that was supposed to be like a person
Oh,
in the books, and they turned into like this hulking thing, which
okay.
looked really cool. And I guess one thing I like is when I see action on screen, usually it's not like the action itself that's interesting or exciting. Sometimes it is if it's like original.
Sure.
It's usually what it signifies, right? It's this person is fighting, and if they die or their allegiance is different or something, right? Like that's where tension comes from.
Is he gonna finally surpass his father in the way of the blade, or is he? You know what I mean? Like,
sure,
it doesn't matter. Like, oh yeah, he hit that way or this way,
right?
if there's nothing going on.
And so what I appreciated about most of this show is there's really not long, drawn out, unnecessary fights. It's more like you get the setup, a little bit of the action, and then the consequences. And so then when he fights a Chernobog, it's like you see it come into existence. It looks really scary. It chases them. It kills Roach. These are just things that happen. in the story that move it forward. And then when Geralt finally does kill it, it's just power up, you distract, stab killed.
Yeah.
Loved it. It looked cool. It was done in
Satisfying.
like 3 seconds. It wasn't this like 20-minute, just like back and forth, back and forth.
Still satisfying. Doesn't have to be like 20 minutes long to make it epic.
Mhm.
Right? Do you want to talk about the ending? We kind of did.
Yeah, I mean, so everybody kind of comes together.
So the ending achieves getting everyone together and getting everybody like on the same page, kind of.
Yes.
But I thought the whole stuff with the mother possessing her was kind of like, wow, like.
Well, overall,
and then she goes to like Mars and like there's like Vikings there.
Well, I like that. So, I mean, overall, what this season did is it established Ciri's importance. It showed Geralt being more of a father figure and kind of accepting that role for Ciri and seeing, am I enough for her? Does she need like, you know, some other like things? Yeah. And then Yennefer gets her magic back, sees what's important to her. Jaskier exists. And with the kingdoms and everything, the elves have their little dilemma and the baby dies, Fringilla and Kahira, wherever.
The scene is set, right?
Like, the scene is set for crazy stuff to happen next season. The way that we get there is, I think, sometimes hit or miss, which we've discussed kind of the reasons for that.
One small thing. Did it bother you, like, the fast travel stuff? Like, they're like in Sintra, and then like 5 seconds later, they're like in Kaer Morhen. I'm like,
especially
how did
with
they get there?
With Geralt. Yeah, it seemed.
I think they just walked. They didn't like teleport. Like the people just kind of show up in places like a lot. I feel like.
Yeah.
Where like it would take like months to get there, but like they're just like here, then here, then here. It's kind of like what?
Yes.
Like where were those? Where were those dwarves like Yarpen and stuff? Like where were they? I have no idea.
It makes the world feel really small.
Yeah, because they're like instantly. Like they're in Egypt. We're gonna go to Norway. Like
it's one of those things that it's not as story breaking as like the the dragons in Game of Thrones.
Oh gosh.
But you're right. I mean, the portals exist, so you can excuse some things like when Geralt goes to like Istred, like that's excusable.
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect sense.
Right. So for the other ones, I'm like, if they really cared, they could have conveniently had like a witch there or something. Like so it's okay, but you're right.
But I think the end achieves this hodgepodge kind of family unit is finally
together.
It's a
found family. That's what it's called.
Yeah. Surprise family. Whatever. Anyway, so Geralt's like he needs something to do. Like he's kind of been witchering like all day. For his whole life. And he has like kind of no point. He's kind of resigned to this. He's like, I'm just gonna die when I get too old to fight monsters and they'll kill me. Whatever. He has nothing to like live for, kind of. But Ciri gives him like purpose. She needs a family, obviously, because her whole family was murdered / is evil or whatever, and she's growing up. She has like no guidance, and she's going through a lot. Yennefer
wants a baby. Yeah.
So
and Jaskier wants a friend. I don't know if he'll actually be in there, but
he'll be there.
All right,
it's like a uncle.
Sure.
And Vesemir's like the grandpa.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, so you get this like hodgepodge family unit where they're all like wanting things. And they all like get those things from each other.
It works.
And that achieves that at the end. And I think that's satisfying.
Yeah, I think people like to see that.
So what I think is like for the second season overall, like I liked it. It was much more clumsy and clunky, I think, than the first one. It wasn't as polished, and like some things were kind of like what? But ultimately, I feel like it was held up by the characters that I like. Yeah,
the characters' motivations were kind of they were good motivations. Sometimes the way that the actions were carried out was a little bit clunky, like you're saying.
Yeah,
and it seems like they were sort of dragged, like the plot dragged them where it needed to make things work.
Yeah. I feel like it set the stage for like the third season. Like it's got all the pieces in place. You have all our factors. Like they're together. Emir's revealed. That's his daughter. So that's always going to be a thing. The elves in Northern Kingdoms, that's going to be a thing. The stage is set. So it's not as good as the first season, I don't think. But I still liked it. And I'm certainly going to watch the third season. But I feel like it's like a little dip. Maybe because of the way the books are. I don't know. What I read was that's what the showrunner kind of said. Like, well, it was kind of like despair that we needed like something to get us here so we can do the third season. So I think it's kind of like housekeeping, like cleaning up all these like character stuff, getting them all together, and now we're ready to go. You know what I mean?
I hope so. Yeah.
I am hopeful that that's going to be the case too.
I think there's a lot of things that make it easy to watch this show.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. I mean, the action's good.
The characters are great.
We haven't really talked about Geralt himself as a character, but he's very likable. Like,
yeah, I think Henry Cavill plays it really well. And he was talking about as well, like he changed the armor and the suit up and like made it a little bit dirtier. Everything seemed a little bit worn. There's depth to everything, right? Because the monsters, it's not just, oh no, there's 1,000 of these monsters. Next time there will be 10,000 of these monsters. It's very specific monsters that each look really cool. There's not that many of them, but I don't really care.
And then like him himself, like he's like honorable, but also like fatalistic and nihilistic. He's like, everyone's bad. Everyone is like out for themselves. Everyone's selfish. Human beings are selfish, but I'm going to help them anyway. That's my job. I'm going to do the right thing. I don't kill like there's a part in the first season where like this stupid knight like gets scared by this weird coyote monster and he like kills it. And Geralt's like, if we just fed it like berries, it would run away. So he doesn't just kill like indiscriminately. So he has like his own internal code that he sticks to and all this stuff. So he's very likable. And then at the same time, he's very good at fighting and he doesn't like this. He's not like a pushover at all. You know what I mean? So stick to his code, but like push comes to shove, he'll stand up for himself. Anyway, so that's like your central character. So that supports a lot of like, you can get away with a lot of sloppiness or clumsiness in other places because of that.
And not just him, every single character is like fully formed. Like you just described Geralt's like entire motivation and who he is as a character. You can do that for most of the main characters.
Yeah.
And so when you have them in situations, it's not like you're just looking at like a flat story, like, like some like hieroglyphs on a wall. You're like, each character, each person, you can kind of get inside their heads, which that plus I think the set and costume design, it makes it feel like a real world. And even if, the plot is a little bit clunky at times, the characters, the actors make it believable.
Yeah.
And one other thing is they brought back the Sintra cast from last season.
Who?
Like Calanthe, Mousesack, all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Like during the sort of the hallucination that series having the last episode. That was also, it was different from what you would expect that to accomplish. Usually like a character's having like some weird hallucination. You're not really invested. You're like, this is just taking up time or something. But in this case, because the hallucinated characters as well.
Yeah.
For you, you're also like, hey,
like you like seeing them, right?
Well, you're like, I want to stay in this little dream. And that was something I haven't experienced before when characters have those kind of
that's true. Yeah.
Forced dreams or whatever.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. A lot of it is the characters are very strong. Like Queen Calanthe is like,
yeah, she's great.
She's great. And she's not like a huge, I don't know. I guess maybe she is.
Part of the books?
No, a character in the first season.
Oh, yeah.
I guess she is.
She is.
Whatever. But she's really cool. She's a really strong character. Yeah. And you see that and you're like, oh, yeah, I get it. I want to stay here too.
Yeah. Like they reuse those set designs and like that was good.
So that's the ending. The Wild Hunt stuff was kind of like a little bit. Well, I have no idea really what that is, right?
No, I don't know anything about the Wild Hunt.
The games, but
sure.
But you don't, right?
No, I don't have any idea. I thought it was cool. It's they've set it up to be a much bigger world than what you thought it initially in season 1 with the conjunction of the spheres. I just hope that it's not made smaller next season.
I don't think it will be.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, but I don't think it will be. Again, I don't know what the books are, where they're leading us. But yeah, I'd say a little bit less, not as sharp as season 1, but I still liked it a lot. I enjoyed watching it.
Show was good. It was short. It's not that many episodes. Anybody can watch it. Everybody has Netflix, so everybody's going to watch it. Hopefully, if you like sci-fi, fantasy, etc. There's going to be a season 3. And
I think it's one of the best fantasy shows that you can watch now, right?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Well, there's not much else. And
no, but
I think they're probably going to be able to finish the story the way that they want to. The books are already written, so I expect good things.
I hope so. Netflix has a habit of canceling things randomly, right? But
they do. But in this case, I think
this is pretty big for them, right?
The outlash against canceling this, I think, would be pretty huge. Plus, they're spending all this money developing like cartoons around it, prequels maybe.
That's true.
They're doing all this, so I think.
Oh, did you see that at the end? There was like a Witcher spinoff.
There's like a prequel, yeah.
Thing. What was that?
We'll see.
Okay.
Witcher extended universe.
Thanos.
Anything else? Huh? Say Thanos?
Yeah, Thanos.
No.